Peptides are powerful and often misunderstood.
And here we are trying to change that one conversation at a time.
I'm Dr. Kylie Burton.
And I'm Jessica Bricky.
This is Pep Talk, Peptides Unpacked, science made simple, results made real. If you've listened to this podcast and you haven't shared it yet, please do. And take it one step farther and leave a review so that more people can find this podcast and find the true information about this lovely topic we call peptides. A review and a share would be greatly appreciated as we continue to get more and more downloads each week, doubling our downloads, which means you guys are loving the podcast. And we're grateful for that, which is why we're striving to bring you more episodes this summer rather than pushing pause and taking a step back. We're going to keep going. So, welcome aboard. If you're new here, well, we drop an episode whenever we feel like it. And we've been doing that about 2 per week. That's the pace we've been keeping at as we can bring you more information, more guests, because the reality is we can't share this information fast enough. So if you've been digesting it, thank you. Please share. If you're new here, welcome aboard. Today's topic is about something we've heard a lot in the news where PCOS has now become PMOS. Jess, tell us about it.
This is big news. This is big news for women that have been dismissed for many years, or even not even treated properly. But on May 12th of this year, 2026, if you're listening later on, there was a landmark paper that was published in the Lancet. And that is one of the most prestigious medical journals in the world. And they announced that after 14 years of global collaboration involving over 22,000 patients, researchers, and advocates across 56 different organizations, polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, has been officially renamed and it is now called polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome, PMOS. And when I read this, my first thought is how many women I know that have been told it is just simply a hormone issue and nothing more. And now with this new name, we understand this is an endocrine issue. It's so much more, and that's going to
Well,
change everything.
polyendocrine means multiple
Multiple. Mm-hmm.
endocrine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a little personal for me. So while I was never personally diagnosed with PCOS, when I was 19, and we're going back a few years, so I'm 50, currently 54, I'll be 55 this year. I was diagnosed with endometriosis, not the same condition, but it was a really progressive doctor that did a surgery, found the scar tissue, and all of that. Um, and along the way, I struggled still with my managing my symptoms, which was very difficult periods, painful periods, a lot of issues to the point that there were days that I couldn't even sit because the pain was so incredible. And at the age of 23, I was told by another doctor to have a hysterectomy. That was the only way that I was going to
I was
go
going to
forward.
say, and you had kids?
Yeah. 20, can you imagine? I was 23 and this doctor said, well, the only way you're going to deal with this is to have a hysterectomy. I was so unbelievably dismissed by this doctor. Now, again, we still probably don't know everything we should about endometriosis or
Correct.
PMOS, but the point is I went on to have 3 children. But through those early years in my 20s of trying to treat my endometriosis, I stumbled upon one way to self-treat my symptoms, which was the Atkins diet, which was all the rage back then.
Mhm.
And that meant no carbs, no sugar, any at all. And when I was true to that, I had no symptoms. I felt my best. I had no pain. My periods were normal. But it wasn't sustainable. Like having no carbs is not healthy.
Which
It's
is
not
why nobody's still on it.
right, exactly. So fast forward now, I would say and probably in you're younger than me and so you're more still in the childbearing years. You hear more and more women talking about having PCOS and endometriosis, and it's going to be a hard switch, by the way, to go from PCOS to PMOS.
Yeah, we're
I have
so
to
used to
actively work
saying
on
it.
that. So used to saying that. So it became more and more common that you were seeing this diagnosis, which one, because maybe we were better at recognizing the symptoms and how to diagnose somebody accurately, but we didn't necessarily get better at treating women that have either condition. So when we look at the fact that all of these people, and that is a lot of people that were involved in this name change, have come together and said, hey, we've got it wrong. We need to change this name to something that is talking about the endocrine system because we told women that had this, they didn't because they didn't have cysts. There is a ton of women that have dealt with, for many years, all of the symptoms of PCOS with the exception of cysts. And because they didn't have that, they were dismissed as it's just your hormones are out of balance, or we'll control you by putting you on birth control. Um,
I know
sorry. Even
several
sometimes
patients,
just sorry.
yeah, several patients who came across my space had both. They had the endometriosis, the heavy, painful periods, and then they had the flip side of my endocrine system, my hormones, my everything is just whacked. And the only thing that they're going to do for me is give me one, metformin. That was the first step with
Oh,
all the
yeah.
side effects metformin came with. And then two, hormones.
Yeah.
So our hormones are a mess. Let's give you more hormones.
Yeah. It's the craziest approach. You brought up something that I was thinking about when I was writing notes to do this, and that is so I talked about my diagnosis of endometriosis at such a young age when nobody knew anything, and yet I have so many symptoms of the PCOS. Now, I didn't have the acne, I didn't have the facial hair, but I had so many other things, and it was definitely controlled, all of it, by how I was nourishing my body. So I think back now, I'm like, gosh, I wonder if I did have both, but it was never diagnosed because I wasn't dealing with cysts. There were times I had some, but it wasn't like a big problem for me. So the fact that I had some cystic activity in my young adult years, I think that I probably was one of those women that had both things, but nobody knew how to help me
Right.
back
And
then.
in the same scenario, they can't lose weight. They
Correct.
try everything under the sun
hmm
and the weight doesn't go off. It just keeps getting worse typically.
There's a TV show that is on, and uh, drawing a blank. It's the woman is she's a really heavy set woman. She's a dancer. Her name is Whitney, and I can't think of the name of this show on TLC. And she has PCOS, and she's been a big advocate for large body women, women with PCOS, and all of the symptoms that come along with that. And you watch her over the years of this show really struggle with fighting her biology. I mean, she worked out like crazy. She was mindful of our food. And by the way, you should be able to go and have ice cream every now and again and not worry that the scale went up 10 pounds because you ate one thing that isn't perfect.
Yeah, they're
Um,
doing the exercise, they're doing the lifestyle more than
mhm,
the skinny fat people are,
correct.
and yet they're not looking the part.
Right. Now, with endometriosis, a lot of times women don't struggle with their weight. However, as I became an adult, I did. It was something that I continued to fight. So I really do believe I was one of those women that
At both. Yeah.
had both. Um,
Did you ever
but
have iron problems?
I did not ever have iron problems, thankfully. That was never an issue for me.
I saw a lot of patients in blood work where do you have heavy periods? Yeah, how do you know? Your iron status is low.
You know what? I actually should go back up and say I did have iron issues when I was young because I went to donate blood and I couldn't donate blood
Can't
because
do
my
it.
iron was too low. Now that you
Hmm.
say that, I did. I did.
Who
And
knew? Labs
very
can tell stories.
Yes, and very often these things are genetic. So obviously with my mom, she had very similar symptoms with her menstruation and heavy periods and such, and there was no diagnosis for her back then. But the good news is that it's being recognized for what it is, which is a multi-endocrine problem. So all these women that have unfortunately been dismissed now can get the right treatment. All those women that have been di that are diagnosed can get the right treatment And that is going to be addressing things like the liver, mostly, because that's where we process a lot of hormones.
I was
And
just going to
it,
ask you, can you explain to us before we dive into the treatment side what endocrine means? The endocrine system.
the endocrine system is basically our whole hormone system. That's basically what it is. And when we talk hormones, I think most people think it's testosterone and estrogen, and
Yeah.
that's where it ends.
Yeah,
But
let's go a
vitamin
little bit deeper
D,
here.
right, but vitamin D is even a hormone. Our thyroid is a hormone, or cortisol, which people are talking about a little bit more for stress response, hormone. We have many hormones in our body. So it doesn't end with just the reproductive hormones. So the endocrine system is basically all of that,
And we need to
including our blood sugar.
including the blood sugar, and we need to include the detox system as well. So the kidneys and the liver,
Mhm.
because your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone, all of the things when we say hormones that you immediately think of in your mind, they have to go through your liver. And if your liver is too busy executing, getting rid of other toxins, it's not going to get rid of estrogen, testosterone, progesterone. So when we see things like endometriosis, which is high estrogen levels, heavy, painful periods, well, rather than giving the individual testosterone, because that's the first thought is, well, if we give testosterone, we're going to balance the two of
Balance.
them out. No, we're just going to flood
Mhm.
the system with more hormones. That's all we're doing.
Right.
Where when I was treating endometriosis, we would focus on the liver and we would detox and we would help the liver get rid of hormones. So as we talk about endocrine system and polyendocrine, we're talking about more than just progesterone, testosterone, and estrogen. Blood sugar is another key piece, and that's number one on the PCOS. So
Yeah.
we've got multi aspects going on here that us functional medicine providers have been tackling for a while now. It's just more people are coming on board. Hallelujah.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say this diagnosis or this name change is also going to mean that when it comes to the GLPs, because it is a big part of the solution, which, by the way, there are some studies that are showing that most women that have been diagnosed with what we're now going to call PMOS don't produce GLP-1 or probably have never produced it at a normal level. So some of them maybe have never produced any at all, but most have produced very low levels, which is why they could, no matter what they do, they never could balance their weight on this, they could work out like crazy, but the minute that they didn't do their workout or the minute that they had that ice cream cone, scale was going up. And then over
And
time, it just continues
the
to
noise
climb.
in the brain, too. You're
Yeah.
constantly finding the brain
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah. It just and then full body inflammation, right? So the GLPs are important, not just we're talking about them so much in terms of weight loss and blood sugar balancing, which is absolutely true, but because we have these receptor sites all over the body on every single organ, and it really does also impact the brain and how that functions with inflammation, how the brain uses insulin. This we're really talking about a full PMOS. We are talking about a full body breakdown. There isn't one aspect of your body that, in my opinion, is not going to be showing symptoms. So with this new name change, we're going to find that the GLPs are more accessible probably at some point with insurance coverage. We're not there yet, but this is one step in that direction. So what do we do? In my opinion, and I'm just one of many voices out there that would agree that we want to go after liver function, like you just mentioned, and there's two ways that we can do that. One is there's a lot of natural th remedies that we can do to increase our glutathione production in the body, which is extreme. It's the master antioxidant. It is extremely important to good liver function. And we can do things like castor oil packs, eating bitter foods, making sure obviously we don't have processed foods in our diets, coffee enemas. I know that that's not one of your favorite things to talk about. It is non-negotiable in my world. But we can do all of those things to help produce glutathione naturally. But if you are struggling to do some of those things, you can go ahead and you can get glutathione as a supplement because it's not a peptide. So it's really going to be more of of an antioxidant supplement, but you can get straight glutathione and support that function. That would be number one. Number two is that we would want to consider MOTS-C. Now, MOTS-C is often referred to as something that is going to help people with energy levels, but MOTS-C is going to target the liver and make us a little bit more insulin sensitive. So it's going to improve the insulin sensitivity. It is not going to be the end all be all when it comes to balancing blood sugar, but it supports that. And it also targets visceral fat. Now, a lot of people with PMOS have an enormous amount of visceral fat, which is the dangerous fat that we keep in our belly and around our organs. It's extremely dangerous. So that MOTS-C is going to, yes, help the mitochondria and the energy production, which are suffering, and many women that have this, fatigue is a big part of it. But more than that, it's going to support that insulin resistance, that stored blood sugar, the stored sugar that's in the liver, and make us help support that blood sugar sensitivity. So glutathione, MOTS-C, and absolutely the number one thing I would say is getting on a GLP-1 and GIP combination. Depending on your goals and depending on your weight loss would depend on whether you're a microdose candidate or a weight loss candidate. But very often women that are suffering with PMOS are 50 plus pounds overweight on average. So you're going to see them be in a situation where they're going to want to probably be on a weight loss program, because if getting to a healthy weight is ideal, and it is, because there's a lot of danger that comes along with carrying extra weight. So you probably would want to do that. But also I want people to start thinking about giving themselves permission to be on this for the rest of their life. So we talked about a few minutes ago, many of these women have never made it at the level that they need it to be naturally. It's normally made in the small intestines. You produce it every time you eat food, but a lot of these women have never actually made it. And by the way, men can get this too. So it's not even just women, men can get
Remind
it as well.
remind the listeners, we're talking about they've never made at normal levels GLP-1,
Right.
the
So the
peptide,
so the permission is that you might need to be on this for the rest of your life. Just like we've said this a million times before, a type 1 diabetic whose pancreas isn't working and is not producing insulin, you would be on insulin for the rest of your life. You have to have it to survive.
which is a peptide.
It is a peptide.
We've been using it for
So
100 years.
yeah, I read, and you and I have a mutual friend in common. And she put a post out recently about somebody that she knew that was on, I don't know if you saw this or not on Facebook, but she had a mutual, somebody she bumped into, they were on GLP-1. And her question was, well, how long do you plan to be on it? And the woman's response is, for the rest of my life. And she was astounded. What do you mean you're going to be on this for the rest of your life? And I thought, oh my gosh, this woman is doing this entire post shaming those that may need it for the rest of her life because she doesn't understand the need for this particular
Didn't see
peptide.
this.
Yeah, I'll send it to you later.
Okay,
But
let's talk about this because when I get questions about GLPs or peptides in general, the immediate question is, how long do I need to be on it? Well, how long do you want to have the benefits from it?
hmm
And and there's more than just the weight loss benefits. So I've helped individuals get on it. I'm like, this is like the best thing you could do for your heart. This is the
hmm
best thing you could do for your kidneys and your liver and your organs in general because of these additional benefits that we just, weight loss is a big marketing aspect. So everybody knows that it does weight loss, but there's so much more to it. And if you need an example, go back to episode number 3 and listen to Jimmy's story. There's great aspects when it comes to alcohol or recovering from addictions. Like there's so much more to GLPs and weight loss. And we need to give ourselves permission to be like, you know what? If this helps me feel good, if this helps me live better, longer, I'm okay being on it long term. If that means for the rest of my life, so be it. You got on it for brain purposes.
hmm
How many 80-year-olds, 70, 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds could have benefited from it if they started 30 years ago?
100%. I did it for the brain, but it helped so many other aspects of my life, right? So you just mentioned
Yeah.
all that, and I openly talk about this. So if anybody gets squeamish listening, then you might want to plug your ears for 20 seconds while I say this. But prior to me starting, I was having some incontinence issues. And not in the way that after you've had babies, maybe you laugh and you pee a little bit, or you jump on a trampoline and you pee a little bit. I'd had that all resolved with a prolapse with surgeries before, and that was all good. I'm talking about my brain signaling walking to the bathroom, and I would walk there, and the party would get started before I got to the toilet. When I started doing this microdose, that went away. It completely stopped. It was a brain signaling issue between my brain and my bladder. So we have these receptor sites everywhere. So when it comes to a woman who has been diagnosed or suspects they weren't diagnosed, they were told because they didn't have cysts that they did not have PCOS, now PMOS, but you suspect that you did, and you can check off, yes, I have the facial hair. Yes, I have the acne. Yes, I have difficult or irregular periods, but I don't have cysts. Well, let's go back and get reevaluated and let's talk about this because this might be the thing that you need, and you might need a little bit of it for the rest of your life. And that's completely okay if that's what you did because you're not making it normally.
Yeah. And when we're saying a little bit for the rest of your life, you're not going to be on a weight loss dose for the rest of your life. You're not going to be on maybe like a tiny microdose, maybe once a week, maybe every other week, maybe once a month. Like this isn't a daily thing for the rest of your life, but why not have the benefits from it for the rest of your life?
Right.
No matter if you have PMOS or if you think you have, or if you're like, you know what, Kylie and Jess, we've been listening to you for 40 episodes now. I'm in. Okay. And that's really what the goal is here, is like to teach you guys there's so much more to this than weight loss. And it's so beneficial. So when we're talking PMOS, remind me what the M stands for.
Metabolic, polyendocrine,
Polyendocrine
metabolic,
metabolic
ovarian syndrome.
ovarian syndrome. Okay. Polyendocrine, talking hormones and everything that impacts the hormones, plus metabolic, hello, blood sugar. And with PCOS, when it came to labs, it was blood sugar and elevated testosterone. That was a typical pattern. In estrogen, or sorry, in endometriosis, it was elevated blood sugar and high estrogen levels. Those
Mhm.
were the lab markers that I often found with patterns. So the name just makes sense. Blood sugar and hormone problems. The number one peptide you should start off with is the GLP-1 GIP combination.
Correct.
Number two, glutathione, liver,
Yeah, I would say you're pretty much a tie with the glutathione and the MOTS-c because both of them are
MOTS.
gonna, yeah, both. I mean, I'd listen, one, two, three for treating somebody, at least getting them in a better position. But if you have to do one, start with the GLP, and then with the second one, I would say it depends on whether or not you feel your drainage needs support. In other words, let's look at how are you pooping? What does your skin look like? How is your breathing, your sinuses, all that? Like if drainage is a problem, let's go glutathione. If energy is more of an issue for you, you're really fatigued and you would say that's at the top of my list, then let's consider MOTS-c because both are going to help the liver. They're just going to do it in different ways. One, two, three, if you can do all three. But if you can't, start with the GLP, GIP, and then decide between the MOTS-c and the glutathione.
Yes. And ladies and men, gentlemen, ladies in particular, summer is right around the corner. Go do this for yourself so you have the energy to keep up with your kids and grandkids. Okay? Give yourself permission to go start this and then just watch how much better you feel, not just by the end of the summer, by the end of the year, and then in 12 months, and then in 18 months. And you're going to look back and be like, I wish I had taken this sooner, right?
You know my story. It sat in my refrigerator for a couple weeks, and after I finally said, "Oh, I'm gonna do it," I was like, "What was I waiting for?" I
And
was so mad. I
I'm
wasted
gonna do
those
the
weeks.
injections at some point. I'm gonna do it. All right. Jess, where can they learn more about you?
Absolutely. Come and find me on Instagram where I share tips and all kinds of other fun adventures and education around peptides and all things wellness. That is at jessb.talkshealth. You can also find me on my website. That is b2bwithjess.com. And in both of those places, I can help you get on your peptide journey.
Yep. Okay, so remember, number one, GLP-1 GIP combination, that is tirzepatide. When you go to look at ordering these, you're going to look at the longevity side or the weight loss side. And if your BMI is over 27, that's the
20,
weight loss. 27 or 28?
25.
20. Oh, they lowered it. Okay, so if your BMI is over 25, you're going to be in the weight loss category. If your BMI is under 25, you're going to look at the microdose longevity side of the tirzepatide. Then glutathione or MOTS-C. Glutathione if you're needing the drainage, uh, and MOTS-C if you're needing more of the energy. And if you can, you will benefit drastically from all three of them. Just start with GLP, GIP if you need the to start there, okay? With the income. All right. You know what? And if you're like, I would love to get those other two as well, you can make some money doing this too. Get started at drkylieburton.com, whether it's ordering peptides or becoming an affiliate and producing more income for your family so that you can pay for more of your peptides. People are doing it and they're doing it very well and growing a business with it. So it's just totally up to you on how far you want to take this. Get all the details at drkylieburton.com. This is Pep Talk, Peptides Unpacked. See you next time.